Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark, your live stream for all things pop culture. I'm Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and we apologize for not being here last week. I've been super duper sick. I'm starting to get over it, but I've still got the cold med in my system, so I keep wanting to fall asleep. So today might be a fun show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Today,
uh,
today we're going to be talking about uh, childhood trauma. In a fun way,
Yay, childhood trauma! Woo!
Inside Out.
Oh, don't bring up Inside Out. We've
Uh,
discussed this, Caleb. You're not allowed to bring up Inside Out ever on this live stream.
oh yeah, yeah. Childhood trauma in a fun way. Maybe trauma wasn't the best word, but really like stuff that like really scared us as a child.
Yeah,
Um,
and some of it you're like, that's not really scary, but you'll you'll see.
yeah. Hey, what's up, Trippin' Orc? How you doing, man?
Hey, our buddy's back. Uh,
But yeah, so just things that scared us, and you're gonna discover because I think your stuff is pretty normal. I feel like my stuff is really weird.
we also grew up at two very different time periods. I grew up in the '80s, and you grew up like late '90s, early 2000s. So I think
Yeah,
I think that plays a factor of what scared us.
yeah.
So
Well, and I feel like we're already getting into it. We'll get into the weekend check-in. I was a very intimidatable kid, and so I tended to stay away from anything that I could perceive as scaring me.
yep.
Uh, in fact, I remember this one time. This one involves you. This one involves you actually, because you had Mask of the Phantasm
Uh huh.
on VHS, and eventually, we did end up watching it together. But it took a lot of convincing from you to me as a child because I was just so scared of the
That
Phantasm.
that Phantasm Mask is pretty intense. So yeah,
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. Uh, yeah, I was the same way as a child. I just if anything was
Yeah.
scary, I was out. There were parts of Star Wars that scared me. The Tusken Raider jump scene with Luke, or the jump scare he does, that always freaked me out. So I was afraid of everything as a kid. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting discussion. But before we get
Mm.
to all that, Caleb, how you been doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So as far as I haven't been consuming a whole lot of media. I've actually been really interested in kind of creating my own media. I On Tuesday I had this kind of eureka moment. Like just while I was at work, I'm like, I have this idea for a book,
Uh huh.
uh, and so it's kind of like a mix of Legend of Zelda, Avatar, and the new God of War games that have been coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I really want to make it kind of like Chronicles of Narnia esque, the Lloyd Alexander's Chronicles of Prydain. Um, I want kids to be able to read it because, like, Prydain and uh, Narnia are like books that shaped me. And so I want to kind of do the same thing. I don't want to, whenever I say I want to make children's books, I don't want to make like Dr. Seuss books, but I don't want to make like your Harry Potter or
Gotcha.
Percy Jackson, like kind of that middle ground.
Yeah.
The type of book that you and I could knock out in a day. One that, what I remember back in elementary school, for those of you who don't know, I was homeschooled. Oh yes, thank you, Shipping Orc. You are my people. I do love Chronicles of Narnia. Um, I was in public school for elementary school, and I wasn't homeschooled until middle school. Uh, we read through the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because the movie was coming out when I was a kid, and so it was a chapter a day, probably I don't know, like 10 to 20 minutes, something like that. It was just a cool group thing. I believe I was in third grade or something like that. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for is like something that like a classroom of third graders can knock out one chapter at a time together, because that's what I did.
Cool.
So I have this idea. I'm talking with my dad. I really don't know what I want to do with it. I know that I want to write it. I don't know what comes after that, but I'm just I'm in creation mode. So as far as consuming media, it's mainly just been Zelda and Avatar and God of War.
Yeah. Well, when you
And
figure all that out, let me know because I've had stories I've wanted to write for 20 years. So,
yeah,
I've
definitely,
just been
definitely.
stuck in a rut for a long time. And being sick for the last 2 weeks, I've been like really itching, like, I really should write some stuff. I'm not getting any younger. So,
Yeah, yeah.
well, we'll
Well,
see.
and that's the thing. So I have a friend actually, who watches us sometimes, Willis. He was also a bandmate with me for 6 months whenever I was the bass player of his band.
Mhm.
So last year he was in between jobs, and while he was in between jobs, he's like, you know what? I've had this sci-fi epic that I've been wanting to write. I don't even know what I want to do with it. I just have to get it down on page and say that I did it. So he wrote it.
Yeah.
He 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 uh I mean, he won't send it to me. I'd love to read it, but
Yeah.
real quick, yes. But before we get to you, I want to point this out: Chronicles of Narnia should be read in the order of publication, not chronological order. Absolutely, absolutely. The thing that annoys me the most, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna get this because it's right here on my bookshelf. And this isn't going to be face reveal. I've done face reveal before, but this will be the first time in a while. Um, but hey, so I have this Chronicles of Narnia book book set, and I have it in publication order. But if you all can see, the numbers are in chronological order, and it annoys me so much.
So, okay. So, I'm not terribly familiar with Chronicles of Narnia. Magician's Nephew was not the first one published.
No, no, it was actually
Okay.
this. It was the sixth one published.
Okay, because I
Because
started trying to read that, and I got really bored and just could not finish it.
yes, yes. So there's seven books. Magician's Nephew was the sixth one to come out.
Gotcha.
Because it's essentially uh, it's the first one in the series, and so it's kind of giving you the whole point of Magician's Nephew is to give you the background of the villain of the last book.
Okay, yeah, because I was very confused. I was like,
Yeah,
this is not riveting, and I did not get very far. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure maybe that'd be my goal for next year is to revisit Chronicles of Narnia and try to get into it again.
Yes, start with Lion the Witch and the War. So the first three movies are the first three books, and after that is Silverchair, Horse and His Boy, Magician's Nephew, and Last Battle.
Cool.
The first four books are really the kind of Pevensey series, even though the sixth book, even though Silverchair um, doesn't have a Pevensey, it's about Eustace. But those first four books is kind of those characters, and then you've got Horse and His Boy, which is kind of like a Gaiden or a side story, and Magician's Nephew is the origin, and then it all comes together in the last battle.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I've been trying to read a lot more classic literature. I think last year I spent reading a lot of the Dune books. So yeah, I'm eager to try another series this year. So this upcoming
Yeah,
year. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. That, and I would always recommend for anyone who likes Narnia. I would also recommend Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. Um, though those are very much in the same vein. And even if you're like me and you didn't like the Black Cauldron as a kid, which is the movie based on the second book, it's not a great adaptation. The book is very different and way better. I would recommend that. It's a 5 book series, probably about the same length as Chronicles of Narnia. So Prydain is also a good book series.
cool.
We need to talk about books sometime. I don't typically talk about books, but
Yeah, we'll put that on the calendar for maybe next month.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, you've been sick the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
What
I had a week off of work, and it started out good, and then I got sick towards the end, and so we had to cancel last week. So I'd hoped to get a lot of stuff on the live stream, hoped to film some stuff, and it just did not work out. But
you know what? I feel like we're always like that when we're sick, when we're like, I'm sick and, I'm not going into work, but I still want to be productive. You're sick. You're not going to be productive,
Yeah, I think my body was like, you need to slow down. And yeah.
Did you end up, watching anything? Because that's what I do. When I had COVID back, I don't remember when it was. It was whenever Cowboy Bebop, the live action show, came out.
That's a great song.
So it's whenever that came out, I ended up watching Cowboy Bebop, binging that. That's whenever I first watched Loki for the first time. And then of course, anytime I'm sick on the show, my weekend checkup is just like, yeah, I'm sick. I'm watching Law and Order again.
So I watched 2 movies. I watched Fantastic Planet, which
I've never heard of that.
I had never heard of it either. I stumbled across it on HBO or Max or whatever it's called. It was a 70s animated sci-fi movie by the French.
Okay. It is like French anime or something?
Yeah, it is subtitled. Basically, it's an alien world where humans are like ants on that world. Like they have, at some point in the past, they captured humans and brought them to the planet, and now they treat them like as vermin. Like sometimes they keep the humans as pets, but it turns into them like, oh, we got to spray for humans again. They're like killed them by the dozens and stuff, and
we got to spray for humans again.
It's like you were dealing with it's got an ant problem. We got to spray for them, and they're like mistreating them and stuff. The humans, it's like a kid playing with an anthill. You kill an ant, you're like, oh well, So it was an interesting. I'd never heard of it, and then I got to read about it. It's a very famous movie, but I just never heard of it. And they're underestimating the humans because they think, oh, they're just pests. What they don't know nothing. So very interesting. A lot of nudity, but it was like
French.
It was French, and but it's kind of like National Geographic nudity. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the humans are savages or whatever. They just don't wear clothes.
Gotcha.
So then I also watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
You texted me right after you watched it, and you didn't sound you didn't sound too down on it, but you definitely didn't sound enthusiastic.
If you turn off your Ninja Turtle brain, it's fine. It's humorous, but I found the turtles very annoying. They acted like it was like those teenagers that just annoyed you. Like they're too immature.
So these were like a Zoomer Ninja Turtles,
and they were like obsessed with celebrities, and it was just like, shut up. I'm tired of hearing about Chris Evans and Chris Pike and Chris Pine or whoever, and it was just like,
yeah. I always thought that like I could see the Ninja Turtles being obsessed with so first of all, local celebrities, April O'Neil. I always thought that they would be obsessed with musical celebrities. I could see them bringing up back in the day whenever they were at their height, they could be bringing up Madonna or something like that.
I thought you were going to say Vanilla Ice.
I mean, honestly, that too.
But it just felt like Seth Rogen was like, oh, hey, yeah, I know these celebrities. I'm going to bring them up constantly. And I was just like, shut up. And then Splitter was just literally Jackie Chan. And it was just kind of like, this is not Splitter. I don't know. April was actually the one that seemed most like April out of all of them, which was weird. And then the spoilers, I guess, but like Bebop and Rocksteady become like good guys at the end. And you're like, it's Bebop and Rocksteady. Why are they good guys? What is happening? Just a lot of weird choices. And I don't know. It was okay. But it's kind of like, you know what? They'll reboot Turtles in 5 years. I'll just wait for the Yeah, I'll just wait for the next reboot.
So this is not a Paramount show that you were excited for.
If Seth Rogen is less involved, maybe. If he just got the ball rolling and then he steps away and lets other people take over, maybe. But I
mean,
just, again, I don't want to spoil the movie, but I'm not eager to see the adventures of turtles in high school.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So you're telling me that they're accepted into the world and they're going to high school.
At the end, yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I'm like, I don't. That's not Ninja Turtles.
That's definitely not something that I'm down with. That's definitely weird.
Yeah.
Especially for Seth Rogen, because usually when he does his comic book stuff,
It's pretty faithful.
Yeah. I mean,
kind of Invincible or Preacher.
Yeah, Invincible. Like these are great. So, but yeah, everyone, we've talked about this before. Everyone has their Ninja Turtles, and so maybe this will be some kids Ninja Turtles that he likes.
I've been on Reddit and read about it. And there's a lot of people excited for this latest movie. So if you like it, great.
Yeah.
I've got my Ninja Turtles. I've got several that I love. The old movies, the IDW stuff, the Archie stuff. I'm good.
Yeah, like I'm sure because for me, my Ninja Turtles are the 2003 Turtles. I'm sure that there are Turtles fans from the 80s who don't like the 2003 show because the 80s show was just it was a comedy, and for them that's what the Turtles are.
Yep.
But I think that's the cool thing about the Turtles. I think that's the cool thing about comics, especially, is it can be someone else's, even if it's not for you, because like some people might not like Ultimate Spider-Man, but that's my Spider-Man. So
yep.
But no, I might check it out. I might not.
Yeah, it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Just kind of know what you're getting into. That they make some really weird decisions, and some of the jokes are funny, some of the fight scenes are cool, but I felt like the Turtles didn't know what they were doing half the time.
Yeah. Just tell me that Ice Cube shines and Giancarlo Esposito shines. Those are the only two things that I need.
Ice Cube's fun. John Carlito's hardly in it.
Dang it!
I'll tell you that much.
Dang it! He was the one I was excited about.
You get probably less than 5 minutes of him, and that's it.
Okay,
that's it.
What's
really annoying is you see like Baxter's drawings of what he wants the mutants to look like, and they look awesome. And then you get these really dopey looking mutants. It's like, oh, you know what we want? It's on the wall over there. Why are you giving us these stupid looking mutants?
Because it's funny.
Oh.
But yeah, I'll check it out. Who knows? Maybe because we talked about maybe that's your Turtles, maybe that's not your Turtles, maybe it's my Turtles. I don't know. But
while I was really sick, I was thinking, it might be fun to do a show where we watch all the Turtles movies and rank them. But I was like, no, that means I'd have to watch the Michael Bay movies. I can't do that.
They're not the worst ones though. That's the thing.
Yeah. We'll put a pin. We'll put a pin in that idea.
The third one is still the worst Ninja Turtle movie.
The Turtles, Turtles of Time, whatever. Yeah.
Question: would you put Turtles Forever on that list?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I'd put the Rise of the Ninja Turtles movie on there too.
Okay,
on there too. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I like that idea. So we might do that. But why don't we go ahead and get into the things that I like to call it. It's like, you remember the movies that made us or something like
that? Yeah.
So this is the movies that scared us. Even though it's not
a great title.
Yeah, it's not just movies, but you can't shy away from great branding.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a second monitor currently, so if you can take care of the banners and whatnot, I will put up some slides.
Okay.
And images to kind of talk about what scared us, and I'll go ahead and get us started with this. For those of you who don't know, or maybe you do know, you've been a long time watcher, I am very much a horror movie fan. I love getting scared. I love Mortal Kombat, so gore doesn't bother me. But that was not always the case. It was actually not until I was 16 that it wasn't until I was 16 that I really, got into horror movies and being scared. Before then, I kind of stayed away from stuff like that. But there were still things that kind of creeped in. So my family would get together and they would watch House. I was, not a part of that because, me and my brother were still watching cartoons. But I don't remember why, but I remember sitting down and watching an episode with them, and it just it scared the crap out of me because, like, oh man, like what House does with like their actual surgery, it is very, very cool, but it's like it'll show like a CG internals,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it'll actually show like prosthetics and like the actual surgery happening. And even then, I remember this one episode where the virus it looked like a monster, and so I mean, as a kid, House scared me.
There was an episode of House where it showed I don't know what it was. It was some type of organ, and the organ started like tremoring. There was something wrong with the organ. That still freaks me out. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what it is about it, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying about House. There's
yeah.
scenes are and the different diseases and viruses they're describing. Yeah, that stuff could get in your head. And
Yeah. It honestly, because at this point I love House. I watch it all the time, so this is something that I'm over. But if you're a hypochondriac,
yeah, don't watch
House
House.
House is a. There was a comedian, Mike Birbiglia, who says that he's a self-proclaimed hypochondriac. He's like, I think the worst thing for a hypochondriac is for them to actually get cancer. He's like, I knew it. Remember whenever I was talking about rickets? I bet I was right about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love House now, but like this scared me so much. To the point where I don't think I ever really watched the show until my 20s. Like I said, there came a point where like I wasn't scared by things as much. And so
I think when you're younger, your brain is making core memories.
yes.
So that stuff gets stuck in your head. My oldest son, when he was real little, he caught an episode of CSI where a motorcycle got smashed between two semi trucks in a crash, and they couldn't find the motor. They didn't know the motorcycle was there because it got smashed in between them. And he talked about that for years. He'd be like, "You remember that motorcycle?" And so I mean, those things, especially when you're younger, they get caught in your head, and your brain just dwells on them. And it's
one thing that I wanted to bring up, because it didn't necessarily fit. Plus, I wasn't scared by it. The Dark Knight does something very interesting. I think the best way to scare kids and people in general, honestly, is to not show anything.
Oh yeah.
The Dark Knight is brilliant because that is, if you think about it, it's not that violent of a movie. It's all implied.
That's the deal of Jaws, the original.
Yeah.
They rarely show the shark, and it makes it way scarier.
Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to bring that up because it didn't necessarily fit in because by the time Dark Knight came out, I mean, I was probably about 11 or 12 at the time. So, it was Batman. I wasn't gonna be scared by that.
Oh, I just thought of one I should have brought on this list. Jurassic Park freaked me out when I saw that.
Okay, gotcha.
Those raptors were I was terrified.
I'm sure. Now for me, I didn't watch Jurassic Park until I was in my 20s. Just because, that was I mean, I'm of the generation where there's just too much to watch, and so some stuff had to be forgotten.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, so for me, it's House. Speaking of House, did you know that House was a derivative of Sherlock Holmes? That's actually why he's named House.
And
The
this is
reason,
why he lives at the same address, doesn't he? Or
yeah, he does. He does.
yeah.
His sidekick is named Wilson instead of Watson.
Hmm.
Um, and I need you to explain this to me. Well, young Sherlock Holmes. Why does this? Why did this scare you as a kid?
This was shown like there was a news story recently about a fourth grade teacher that showed her class the new Winnie the Pooh horror film.
This
Uh,
is so funny.
this was kind of a similar situation. I think I was in third grade, and they had us watch Young Sherlock Holmes, and I freaked out. They had to like pull me aside and let me go color at a table or something. I could not handle this. There was the killer was using like tranquilizer darts that had hallucinogens on them, and then the people would hallucinate monsters and stuff before they died. Uh, yeah, this terrified me. And there's a famous scene where the stained glass comes to life and forms into this knight, attacks the guy. So that's what this image is here. I don't remember much of the movie. I'm sure if I saw it today, I'd be like, "That's it. That's what I was scared of." You know. But yeah,
I'm,
this movie freaked me out.
I didn't put it on this list because I didn't want to bring up the fact that it's a bad movie, but I guess I'll bring up that it's a bad movie now. I'm the same way with uh, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, uh, where that movie's like everything that went on with the cult scared me as a kid, and then I watch it as an adult. I'm like, really that? And I'll go ahead and say this again. It is a bad movie.
Which one? Which movie were you talking about? Sorry, I was reading
Uh,
your comment.
Temple of Doom.
Oh yeah. Temple of Doom. Yeah, that one kind of freaked me out as a kid too. That the monkey brain scene and
Yeah.
then the heart.
Yeah. Oh,
Reading.
yeah. Which is hilarious because now Kano's heart rip is one of my
Oh
favorite.
yeah. But I mean, I saw that when I was real little.
Yeah.
Okay, now that my brain's a little bit more awake from being sick, I'm remembering all these movies I was scared of. Before we get to that, Tempting Frog here said, "Loved the Blair Witch Project as a kid. Never showed you violence or anything, but still kept you on your toes."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Blair Witch Project because I knew what was up with the movie, and I went and saw it like opening weekend, and the crowd was just losing their mind, and so I had a lot of fun watching the crowd just totally going nuts. I mean, that was very early internet days, so most of the crowd had no clue what was going
Yeah.
on. And is
So
this real? Is this not real?
here we go. This is so I went into this whole thing about how like I'm not like this anymore. I'm a horror movie aficionado now. Blair Witch Project is not one that I've ever gotten around to.
Um, it,
Uh,
it, it
my problem is I feel like me watching it now, I might not get it because I wasn't there.
yeah,
I'm concerned that that's one.
it's probably a little long and slow now. You know that it's just they're making a movie because when it came out, the big thing was, is this real? Is this not real? And then there was still that mystery afterwards because they weren't talking. They were not saying what happened. But then you saw the girl on a Steak and Shake commercial. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're fine. They're okay.
The ending to Blair Witch Project is a Steak and Shake commercial.
Yeah, they're fine.
That's funny. That's funny.
So I thought of another movie that I left off this list. I
Okay.
don't know if you ever heard the movie Critters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that used to always be on at my grandmother's house. She had HBO, so when we'd visit her, that was always on, and it freaked me and my younger brother out. We were terrified of those guys. And I finally watched it like a year ago. I was like, oh, this is actually a pretty good movie. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Critters is great.
yeah,
Um,
let's go ahead and move on to your next one on your
yeah.
list.
So we have Independence Day. So tell me if this resonates with any of you. This also goes back to my elementary school days. Um, back in the day, uh, it was kind of like soccer. Whenever you were at school and you were good, you had your magnet with your name on it, and it was on the green, like it was like a light, and it was like green. But whenever you did something wrong, teacher would go over and move your name over to yellow. If you kept going, they'd move you over to red, and if you kept going after that, then you had a U. Um, or let's say that you did something so bad that you skipped yellow and you went straight to red, or you went straight to U. I don't know if that resonates with anyone else, but that's
I
how.
haven't heard of the magnet system. I've heard of the popsicle system, which is similar, where you get green, yellow, red, depending on how your behavior
Yeah.
was at school. Yeah.
Or they did this one thing. It was different with every teacher. I had one teacher who we had our names on these the wooden clips, and so we'd put them on our polos because this was a school with a uniform, so we all had collars. And so they would, you had 4 clips, and throughout the day, if you were bad, the teacher would take a clip. Regardless, the way it worked in my house is if it was a red or a U, that's whenever actual discipline would happen. But what my dad would do is if I got a yellow, he would make me watch a movie that I don't want to watch because I'm scared of it.
Psychological warfare. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So this was almost like getting a yellow was almost worse because a red was like you're getting a spanking. It's it's over. But a yellow was like, okay, so I'm stuck for the next 2 hours watching this movie. And so he made me watch Independence Day one time. And, as a kid, even I was like, okay, this is actually a really cool movie. It's Will Smith. I like Will Smith. He's cool. But then the scene with the doctor where they're trying to dissect the alien.
With Data. Yeah. From Star Trek. Yeah.
Is that Brent Spiner?
Yeah, that's Data on your screen, on the screen right now. Yeah.
It never registered. That's Brent Spiner. But it's the scene. So like the tentacles are obviously around, holding him up against the window, and he says, "Release me," because the alien's talking through the guy. Oh man, it just freaked me out so much as a kid.
I saw Independence Day when I was a teenager. I mean, it's a freaky scene, but I was more like, hey, it's Data. What's happening to Data?
I was probably like 8 at the time or something like that. Like I said, I was a very intimidatable kid. So 7 or 8.
I think that, both of us have similar backgrounds, grew up in a very religious household. And I think that affects things. I think things are way scarier when you grow up in a religious household.
Sure.
So yeah.
What's weird is I have a friend. Actually, you said Tempting Frog, yeah. So I think he's in here. I'm gonna say it anyways. The weird thing about that, because he is also of that background, like you and me, pastors' kids. For me, I'm at the point where like hexes and the occult don't really scare. Like I actually find it cool. But for him, he still has trouble with that, and so I find it fascinating that even though 3 people can grow up in the same background, part of the background sticks with us in different ways.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, definitely, I think being scared as a kid. Well, and it's not just that; it's also like you're the pastor's kid, and so you've got some like really horrible adults who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna bully the pastor's kid."
Well, and I also think part of the upbringing is some kids grow up like watching horror films as early as they remember, so it has no effects on them. So if you grew up in a household where you were not allowed to watch horror films, they hit way harder when you actually do watch them, because you're not used to them. I've reached a point where I watch a lot of people play a lot of scary games, scary videos. So for the most part, even though I don't enjoy watching horror films, they don't really affect me when I do watch them. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. For me, with my dad, even though punishment was watching a movie that I didn't want to watch, whenever I was first born. So he also is a horror movie aficionado. He had a collection of horror movie VHS tapes. That was kind of like his like the thing that he collected. But apparently there was this one time, and I don't know what movie it was, but I was just like, 1 or 2 years old. He was watching a scary movie, turns around, and I'm watching it the from behind the couch. And apparently he sees something on my face. He immediately stops it, and like he ended up selling all of his horror movie collection.
Yeah.
Just because like that's what. And now as adults we can watch horror movies together, and it's fun. Speaking of which, Follow the House of Usher on Netflix. If anyone hasn't watched that, that is prime Edgar Allan Poe, and I love it. Just came out.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's talk about your next one, which I think people of your age can probably all identify with this one. This isn't one. This isn't one for me, but I'm sure a lot of people.
Have you seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
I have. Okay. I wasn't a kid when I saw it. I was, much older whenever I eventually saw it. So this, obviously, it's weird, but it's not something that stuck with me.
So during the 80s, I mean, Pee-wee was everywhere. It was huge, and Pee-wee's Playhouse was very, I say innocent. It was not a. There was innuendos all throughout that show, but it was a, it was like a Mr. Rogers type show, just wacky zaniness for kids. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure, for the most part, is wacky zaniness, but also there's just this terrifying moment where he gets picked up by a truck driver named Large Marge, and for a lot of kids from my age group, if you ask them what scared them as a kid, this is what gets mentioned. I mean, looking at it now, it looks very silly, but it comes out of nowhere. That jump scare. She's just kind of telling a scary story, and she's like, "It looked like this," and she turns around and makes that face, and man, it's just terrifying when you're a kid. It was like, we'd watch the movie all the time, and we'd skip the scene or look away, and we cannot watch this scene. Tim Burton directed the movie, so of course, he's gonna slip something in there that's
definitely.
that's terrifying.
Uh,
but like if you bring up Large Marge around my age group, they kind of shudder, like, don't talk about Large Marge.
I think my age group, I think the Tim Burton thing that like really got to all of us. It didn't get to me too much, but it is like even now I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of a weird thing for kids, is a Coraline.
Well, Coraline's not Tim Burton.
Is it not?
No, that's a Neil Gaiman story. I think who made that? That was the.
Did Tim Burton not direct it though?
No, I don't think he has anything to do with it. It's the Kubo and Seven Strings guys that made that. It wasn't made
Really?
Astro Boy, I believe. I think they made Astro Boy. I might be getting that mixed up, but it's definitely not Tim Burton.
Henry Selick. Okay.
Now he may have had something to do with Nightmare Before Christmas, Henry Selick. I don't know, but yeah, Coraline is a great children's horror film. I love Coraline.
Yes, I do love it as well. But anyway, so another reason why this didn't scare me is because my mom would say Large Marge a lot, like as a kid.
Yeah,
but like not in a scary way. Like I remember specifically there was this one time where like there was an unflattering picture of her whenever she was a little bit heavier, and she's like, "Get that picture away from me, looking like Large Marge." Yeah. And so like she was using Large Marge like as a joke, and so like if you use something as a joke, it's not going to be scary. But yeah.
Yeah, so the guy that directed Coraline directed Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So there is a connection. It's just not Tim Burton. It's not the connection. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, there's an IMDb connection because you can get from Coraline to Pee-wee so the director of Coraline directed Nightmare Before Christmas, which Tim Burton produced, and then he went on and then he directed Pee-wee's Big Adventure, blah 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 blah, and then now you're talking about the Alamo.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that's written by Phil Hartman, directed by Tim Burton, and then you see the next Pee-wee movie where Pee-wee did not have Phil Hartman, did not have Tim Burton. It's terrible, So
would this have been like if Ren and Stimpy got a movie? Because I really don't know much about Pee-wee's other than the movie. Like I'm not familiar with the show.
It'd be like more like Ernest P. Worrell got a movie, which he did several. Like I know a lot of people bring up Ernest Scared Stupid. That's another movie that scared them when they were kids. The Troll. That's
I'm trying to think of something from my generation. Like
it'd be like Bill Nye the Science Guy made a movie, and also there's a jump scare like this in the middle. You're like, what happened?
Okay.
Bill Nye goes on an adventure, or Beakman, or whatever. Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense to me.
It just comes out of nowhere. You're like, what is happening? Or Blippi or whatever. Blippi has an adventure, and also there's Large Marge.
And it's just a picture of my mom, but it's unflattering. Oh man. She says that she watches these after the fact. I hope she doesn't watch this. Okay, so anyway, my next one is similar to my previous one. It's a movie that I actually didn't want to watch, but now I love this movie and I love the franchise. It's Serenity. I'm trying to remember what I did because this was after I was homeschooled, but I didn't want to watch this because the Reavers freaked me out, and this movie opens with a jump scare, which is so weird. I think I must have done something to Cameron, but it wasn't as bad to necessitate an actual punishment. So my dad just made me watch Serenity, which, looking back on it, your punishment is you have to watch this phenomenal science fiction movie. But obviously, like, even watching it, and as I'm watching it, like, as a kid, I'm like, okay, I was wrong. This is really good. Reavers are still freaking scary.
Oh yeah, the Reavers are terrifying.
And even so, I actually watched the movie before I watched the show. I've talked about this before, that my dad watched the movie before he watched the show. There's only one person that I know that watched the show before the movie, and that was intentional because I made him do that to see what his reaction would be. Mm-hmm. Even just watching this, the revelation of the Reavers is so terrifying because you really only get like one or two instances of Reavers in this movie before the revelation, but that's all you need.
Yeah. And the way they don't they strap bodies to the front of the spaceships and
stuff? They strap body. They use their they use the flesh as like clothing and whatnot. Whenever I was putting this together, I was like, that's why this is such a tame picture, because I'm like, I wonder if a picture of a Reaver would get us in trouble.
I don't know. YouTube's so weird lately. There's no telling.
So I didn't want to bother with it. But Reavers in general are just insane, and then you find out that it's because of the government. Always. But I mean, like, it's a great movie. And even as a kid, when I was watching it as a punishment, I'm like, okay, this is a great movie. But I was like, these things are still scary. And as an adult, I'm like, you know what? Reavers are still scary.
Yeah, they are. Like cannibals in space.
yeah. Oh man, what's that one cannibalistic movie that's like? It's like
Ravenous?
Cannibal H Word.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
don't.
that's the
Yeah,
one that's it's kind of like Blair Witch, where they're like, is this a
yeah,
found footage movie? Is this real
yeah,
or not? Yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's H
uh,
word. That's another word that I don't know if YouTube wants us saying. So I
yeah.
won't say it.
Ravenous though is a fun movie. I don't know if have you heard of that one.
I haven't actually.
Um, I need to rewatch it. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but basically, um, it's kind of like Wendigo rules, where
Mhm.
the more people you eat, the stronger you get, and almost like Highlander.
Yeah, I was about to say that's Highlander.
But there's a famous line in it where the guy's asleep, he wakes up, he goes, "He was licking me."
That's and I need to establish that I think the scariest thing about Reavers, because honestly, like uh show don't tell is important in horror, obviously. But sometimes I think telling works as well.
Yeah,
Because with Reavers, you could just like without any context, you can just be like, oh, so there's zombies in space. Because but whenever they establish no, these aren't zombies, these are people who went mad on the edge of space and started eating people, we can all agree cannibals are much scarier than zombies. I don't think anyone can dispute that.
so just a heads up, Ravenous has Guy Pearce in it,
Oh, I love that Pierce.
David Arquette, uh, Neil McDonough is the guy that plays.
Neil McDonough, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So pretty good cast. So yeah, that's
That's
a
yeah. Whenever you were saying it, I thought it was an older movie, but with that cast,
it's 1999.
yeah, that's definitely. I thought you're talking about like one of the cheapo 70 movies or something.
No, yeah, that's one you should try to find.
Yeah, yeah,
It's pretty
definitely.
fun.
But yeah, Serenity is it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I apologize for spoiling the big twist. I didn't think about it whenever I was saying it.
It's still a good movie.
It's
Still a lot
still
of
a good
fun.
movie regardless. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And people wanted a sequel, and now they're kind of like, I don't know if we still want a sequel with the same people involved. We'll see. Same creators involved, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Redacted is a creator that I struggle with now.
Yeah.
I don't even
start
like
hearing stuff about the cast members of Buffy, and the stories they start telling. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
there's something strange going on there.
that's what at this point, like I even in real life, I say redacted. I don't say because I don't even feel comfortable saying his name because I grew up loving all of his stuff, and and it's just so weird
Yeah.
because like I still love this stuff. Well, there are some things that I watch that I'm like, I don't know if this holds up anymore. Like, what's the Neil Patrick Harris one? Professor Dr. Horrible's sing along blog.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about Redacted now, I don't think that movie holds up. Because all we're seeing is his internal psyche, and it's really scary. It's scarier than anything we're talking about today.
Moving on.
Um, yeah, wow, your next one, obviously, Mr. Krueger.
Well, I was not allowed to watch horror films, so I'd see, Freddy Krueger was everywhere in the '80s,
Sure.
and
I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a Burger King commercial with him in it or something.
there was I don't know if you remember the Fat Boys. They were a music group, and there's like a music video with them with Freddy Krueger or something. I mean, he was everywhere.
Did they get Robert Englund?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, so but I'd see the trailer, so I was aware of him. But then you'd go to school and you'd hear the kids on the playground talking about it because they were allowed to watch it. So you hear everything third hand, which made everything way worse because now you're imagining all this stuff happening.
It's what I said. The way to scare kids is to not show.
Yeah. So he was. I mean, I was having literal nightmares about Freddy Krueger. It was just terrifying because your kid's gonna be like, oh yeah, they came out of the guy's stomach and ripped him in half, and you're just like, you're just here, you're picturing it, and what you're picturing is probably way worse than the cheesy special effects they used and whatnot. The '80s were just a different time because there were so many TV shows that were on TV that were scary, like not Twilight Zone, but there was like the Outer Limits or
Mhm.
Tales from the Dark Side or the Monsters or so you were
Tales from
constantly
the Crypt.
bombarded with scary stuff. Um,
Um, I
and
think
and so I didn't have, and back then we had black and white TVs on some of our rooms because TVs were expensive back then. So you had the turn dial where you would turn the channels, and so like if I knew there was a scary movie on one of the channels, I'd have to get past it to get to the other channels. I was always freaking out. It was bad.
yeah, I so that one actually resonates with me because we had a TV downstairs when I was a kid, but we
Uh-huh.
didn't have a remote for it. So
Right.
so I still had to change the channel by channel. So that actually resonates
So
with
yeah, it
me.
looks like if Poltergeist or something was on, you're like, oh my gosh, no, turn.
No. For me, it was like Nickelodeon was right next to Spike TV, and Spike TV was all well. So Nickelodeon was channel 42, Spike TV was channel 41, and
Uh-huh.
TNT was channel 43, and you never knew what you were gonna get.
Right.
So,
I get it.
now, have you ever seen, or do you just still have like the childhood images of Freddy Krueger? Have you ever seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie at this
I
point?
have never sat down and watched one, but I do watch like YouTube
Okay.
people react to these movies or scenes from the movies and stuff. So I've seen
Yeah.
several scenes from the movies or
Gotcha. Yeah.
documentaries about it.
Well, because I mean, you said something about the special effects and like the cheesy, 80s. But I at least for the first movie, I think that the special effects in the first movie are phenomenal. Like they still hold up today.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that scares me, and it still scares me, because that's just horrifying, is where he's like in the wall. And so what they did for that special effect was they actually made the wall rubber, and they just had Robert Englund put his face through it with his hands and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it looks so good, and just the idea. I couldn't even tell you what it is that's scary about it. There's just something scary about
Yeah.
someone coming through the wall, but the wall's not breaking. Um, but yeah, I mean,
But
yeah,
he was just everywhere in the age. There was no getting away from him. It wasn't like, oh,
mhm,
I just won't watch that movie. He was just everywhere. There was
yeah.
so yeah, Freddy Krueger. Yeah.
One of my favorite one of my favorite modern day references to this is, did you know that in Injustice 2, Robert Englund is the one who played Scarecrow?
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, I mean, he was so good as
Did
Scarecrow.
did he voice him in the Mortal Kombat when he was in that?
He wasn't in Mortal Kombat.
Freddy Krueger
Oh,
was
Freddy
in?
Krueger? Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. I thought you were talking about Scarecrow.
No.
Yeah. Robert Englund was Freddy Krueger in Mortal Kombat as well.
Yeah.
Uh, which is good because at the time there was also a reboot, which I don't think is as bad as people say, but it's not great. Where Jackie Earl Haley
Right.
plays Freddy Krueger. For those of you who don't know, that is
It's
Rorschach still his biggest role?
he had a TV show for a while. I can't remember what the TV show was. It was the one that was based on the DC comic where he was an agent or something. What was that show?
Human Target?
Yeah. Was
He's
he
on.
on there?
I don't know.
He wasn't the main character, but I thought he was on there. But he's also the cyborg in Alita, and
That's right, he was, and I do know that he plays someone in the RoboCop reboot too.
yeah,
But yeah, Jackie Earl Haley is one of those guys who's just like, I think he's a really good character actor, but we're in an era where character actors really don't have a place anymore, which is unfortunate, because I think we need character actors.
oh, definitely.
Um, oh, he was in Preacher. He played the Terror in the Tick TV show, the reboot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's fun.
That is fun.
Yeah. Uh, so for me, my last one is actually a game, Metroid Prime. And it's not just Metroid Prime. A lot of stuff scared. Even my favorite game of all time, Ocarina of Time, scared me as a kid in a way because in these adventure games, the idea of not knowing what's in the next room is horrifying to or it was horrifying to me. So like when you're in the Great Deku Tree and you just got the key for this big door, and then you unlock the big door, and it's just a dark room with like with a light in the middle. As a kid, I'm like, I don't want to go in there. And then as you're walking in there, you hear like ruffling on the ceiling, and then you see an eyeball, and it's the Queen Goma. But Metroid Prime made everything 100 times worse, because Metroid Prime, I believe, was one of my first exposures to first-person gaming. And so with that, it was like 100 times worse, because it wasn't happening to a character I was playing, it was happening to me. And so going up against the Parasite Queen was terrifying. Even in the as a kid, I had this fear of wasps, and in the Chozo Ruins, there are like these exploding wasps that attack you, and that freaked me out so much as a kid. I don't think it was until I ended up playing through, because my copy of Metroid Prime came in Metroid Prime and the Metroid Prime 2 Echoes demo disc. The Metroid Prime 2 demo disc, I think, actually helped me get over my fears in gaming because it was only like 20 minutes long. And I don't know what it was. But yeah, just this being my first exposure to first-person gaming, shooting aliens and monsters, it definitely freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah, the two games that kind of freaked me out was Eternal Darkness. I could not play that one because the only time I had to play it was at late at night, so it was always freaking me out. And then this is the one that's gonna make you laugh. Conker's Bad Fur Day. The zombie level with the zombie squirrels.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the Great and Mighty Pooh.
No, those zombie squirrels. I had a really bad phobia of zombies. I've since gotten over that, but yeah, I could not handle those.
Gotcha.
You would hear them growling in the distance, and you didn't know where they were at. No. I stood on top of the gravestone where they couldn't reach me, and they were just surrounding me, and I'd just stay up there and never finish the level.
I think at this point, the only game that is recent that really scared me that I played is Resident Evil 7. That's probably the most recent game that scared me.
Yeah.
Which is a great game. And honestly, if I played Five Nights at Freddy's, I might be scared by it. I'm not a fan of the games, but I will definitely I'll listen to Daddy Matt Pat tell me story time. That's
sure.
That's what I'll watch.
All right, let's get on to the last one here.
Now, this one is an idea, right? So I put down Mortal Kombat's Living Forest because whenever you told me, this is kind of where my mind went.
But I didn't even think about these guys, but I'm like, yeah, I guess that kind of counts.
Well, so there's a fatality in MK11, not MK11, in MK9, where you throw the character into the mouth and they start chewing on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, please explain the idea.
So when I was a kid, there's a lot of movies from the 80s and earlier that involved trees attacking people. So like, Wizard of Oz is from the 40s or whatever. It has trees that move around stuff. But I guess Poltergeist was probably the one that I saw parts of somehow when I was a kid, of the trees attacking the house. And that kind of freaked me out. And then when I got older, probably about 19 or 20, I saw the original Evil Dead. And then I was like, you know what? I'm done with trees. If you have not seen the original Evil Dead. There is
First of all, go watch it. I mean, Sam
oh
Raimi is
oh
an artist.
um
Watched
it
all
is
four of them. I haven't seen the newest one, but at least the first four, phenomenal.
um the first Evil Dead movie has like ridiculous amounts of gore in it, like
Yep.
stupid amounts, and it's like stupid amounts of gore. Um,
It's like Cabin in the Woods, but it's not a joke.
um, but there's a scene where at the beginning where the possessions start, where a girl is lured out into the woods, and this is YouTube. So I have to be careful. The tree
Yeah,
limbs wrap around her, and then there is a assault on the lady. That's all I'll say.
with the branch.
Well, we got to be careful on
Yeah,
YouTube. But yeah,
yeah.
it's super. I wouldn't say graphic, but it's
No,
applied. It's a
it,
very
it
applied what happened.
no. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Once again, the scariest things are the things you don't show.
So yeah, anytime a tree starts moving, I'm like, no, we're done here. we're, I'm not having trees moving.
How,
Uh,
how, how do you feel about Treebeard?
Treebeard's fine. That's not scary. I'm talking about like in a threatening, like we're in a haunted house and
I'm
the
just like,
forest is
oh no,
moving around.
Treebird's starting to tell us another story.
Get out of here! I'm gonna set Treebeard on fire, hit you with an axe.
Oh
Yeah.
man, no, I completely understand. This isn't one that I specifically subscribe to, but I definitely get it. Because
Or if like vines start wrapping around somebody, it's like no, let's stop.
uh, I think the reason that this doesn't scare me personally as much is just because ever since I was a kid, Poison Ivy has been one of my favorite Batman villains. As a kid, I loved Batman and Robin, and I loved Uma Thurman. I still love Uma Thurman in the role, by the way. But you know, Poison Ivy's always been one of my favorites. So like people being wrapped up in vines doesn't bother me because I'm like, oh yeah, Poison Ivy does that to Batman all the time. Which saying that out loud in that sentence is really weird, but um, no, I definitely understand it.
Yeah. So I mean, trees in general are fine. Like I said, it's when they start moving in ways they're not supposed to be moving. It's like, yeah,
If trees move, no, and so like they're just blowing in the wind. No, get them away.
right. um, so that's our list of some of these are irrational fears. But you know, did you have something that you were afraid of when you were a child? Some movie, TV show? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. Um, Next week is our Halloween weekend. I do not think I'll be available next week, but I think Caleb may have something planned. So
Yeah,
question mark whether or not we'll have a show next week.
If we don't have a show next week, then what I'd like to do, because I want to talk about Castlevania Nocturne so much, so I might do like it won't be a live stream. It might be just like a short little video just talking about my thoughts on it. And if that happens, I'll post it around the same time we have the live stream.
Good deal. And then November 5th should be our Wolverine the X-Men show where we'll be finishing up the second half of Wolverine the X-Men. It's going to get interesting. We're going to skip I think it was the Battle of the Atom crossover part. I don't think it has anything really to do with Wolverine the X-Men.
No. Battle for the Atom had a lot to do with Uncanny, because I know that you didn't read Uncanny, but obviously the whole big thing about Battle of the Atom was young Cyclops seeing what he would eventually become.
Yeah, I read the first few volumes of that Young X-Men stuff. So,
but yeah, I couldn't. The only thing that I could think of how that would affect Wolverine and the X-Men would be like Jean Grey showing up and Wolverine like freaking out, and it's weird because she's a kid at this point.
Yeah, and I can't remember at what point Kitty Pryde leaves to go with the Young X-Men. So that definitely is going to affect the book somewhere in there. But yeah, we left on quite a cliffhanger where young Brew had been shot in the head, and there's a big question mark of what's going to happen next at the school. Yeah, and it's even going to tie back into the what was that called? Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine book we read a long time
Oh yeah.
ago. All that
So
stuff's going to come back into play, so that'll be
so
fun.
what was first? Was it Astonishing Spider-Man or was it this?
I think Astonishing Spider-Man was before this.
Okay, gotcha. Which,
I
by the way,
think
we
he
reviewed
was
that, but that's an old show, so you'd have to go back
yeah.
quite a
Jason
ways.
Aaron, I think, was writing Wolverine solo book at the time, and then they gave him Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine, and then he moved on to Wolverine the X-Men.
Okay.
Yeah. So very cool. I'm a big fan of the Wolverine the X-Men series, and I think you've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, definitely. I at this point, I think my favorite. I think you've converted me to Uncanny X-Force. I think that might be my favorite X book in general. But
It's
this has
pretty
been good
great.
too.
Yeah. Just with the current state of X-Men, you never know if you're gonna get a good book or bad book. We're just kind of looking at some of the great runs of the past. So, um, yeah. So that'll be in 2 weeks. Super excited about that. Hopefully, my life will calm down enough to where I could do some more work on the channel. We want to start incorporating the shark that you see in the screenshots. So I might do some little short videos. There's another guy, Floor Under a Rock, that does short things of puppets.
Mhm.
So we might do something a little
Yeah,
similar. And
we're pop culture shark for a reason.
yeah, so
Just-
you might see that shark pop up here soon. It won't be like the whole show, but maybe just little video clips here and there.
the shark is the third.
The
Shark is
third member,
the
yes.
third member.
And I bought a green screen a few months ago. I still haven't even opened it. It's somewhere in this room. So I might bust that out and play around with that. So very cool. All right. Well, Caleb, you have a great week. I'm going to
Yeah.
talk to you. Well, I'll talk to you online. And then we might have a little Castlevania video next week, and then Wolverine the X-Men.
Yep.
That's our show. So be sure to hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about our show. We want to get up to 100 subscribers here. Maybe by the end of the year would be a good goal. Although this year is flying by at lightning pace.
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with someone. I'm like, it's October.
No, October's almost over. That's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool. All right. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the show. We will catch you next week. I've been Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
And we'll catch you next time in the Shark Pond.
See ya.